From time to time, topics pop up that we have plans for a full redirect episode, but that our audience also deserves a quicker heads up, so to speak. With that in mind, we're introducing a Cliff's Notes version of these topics to be followed by a redirect episode. We're calling these BTW with BlackTruck Media and Marketing, as in, oh, by the way. We promise to be a brief pit stop in your day, just about 10 minutes, and then we'll be gone so that you can move forward with quick takes and confidence in the digital space.
Welcome to BTW with BTM, where we talk about the latest in digital marketing and what's impacting the visibility of your brand online. I'm your host, Jason Dodge, founder and CEO of BlackTruck Media and Marketing. On this episode, we're discussing Google's massive March 2024 update and how this could fundamentally overhaul the helpful content system and spam updates that we're seeing in the SERPs. So, as always with these BTW episodes, we have a lot to get through in a short period of time, so let's get into it. First up, let's talk about how we can understand the core update. And keep in mind, this isn't your average tweak. A lot of this is relatively new, so there's still a lot that's going to kind of fall out from this. But really, Google is on a mission to show more useful information and fewer results that are made to feel like they were made purposely for search engines, right? So gaming the system. And this update really marks a significant evolution in Google's content helpfulness and the identification of that. It's pretty vague, which is typical for Google, but it's if you think of it as algorithmically, it's enhancements to the algorithm that are aimed at surfacing top-notch content and trimming down unoriginal content, unoriginal search results. And all of that can really has the potential to, I would say, rehaul the helpful content systems integration into core rankings. This is all a potential game changer. We're looking at a rollout that's probably going to span over a month, maybe a little bit more. Google always says, we'll have it done by this date, but truth be told, it probably takes a little bit of time. The promise here is that they're claiming that there could be a 40% reduction in low quality content in the results, meaning completely de-indexing low quality content. To put that into perspective, if you remember the Panda updates, kind of that last massive, oh my gosh, update that a lot in the SEO space, if you've been around long enough, are aware of, it's set to be even more impactful than that. The Panda update probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like a 12 to 15% reduction in low quality. So this is kind of setting the bar high, but keep in mind here, like Google has come under fire certainly in the last year, if not 2 years, for just increases in spam and super low quality content that's being ranked. So let's now talk more and let's tackle the spam update, the spam update and really breaking this down, which is set for May 5th of 2024. In this rollout, Google's clamping down on spam with a vengeance, targeting everything from expired domain misuse, meaning there's expired domains, somebody squats it, buys it, redirects the traffic, that type of thing, or they're utilizing it for, let's just say, nefarious purposes. And scaled content and site reputation abuses. So, what counts as abuse and how these changes might be reshaping the SEO landscape is something to keep in mind. When we talk about domain misuse and when we talk about content at scale, a lot of this has to do with the sudden increase in uses of people generating content from AI. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but you have to kind of think about people that are moving forward with generating just massive amounts of content at scale, potentially to the game of the system, if you will. And another check in the box for we can't have nice things, right? Let's dovetail this into what the industry is saying and what we're talking about right now. I would say many in the industry have been speculating this for a while now. Dr. Marie Haynes and Lily Ray both have been very frank about the fact that these changes were coming, that there was this wave of spam that we continue to see in the SERPs. In fact, Marie had predicted it last week, prior to her and Lily being at PubCon this week. So it's kind of ironic that you have two individuals that really follow algorithm updates and what's happening in the SERPs are at, in the same place in the same time. And Google, releases a major update like this. So the trend really has been, and maybe should have been all along, toward, let's just say, valuing helpful content and authoritative content more than ever. The spam updates, certainly these are targeted against a lot of that AI generated content that I talked about before. So those who have been leveraging AI to generate massive amounts of content at scale, this could be of concern to you. So if you're a marketer out there and you're leveraging LLMs like ChatGPT, and now we have Google's Gemini, and you were leveraging that just to regurgitate a bunch of articles and a bunch of content that were not original, were not from an authoritative source, might be a little bit of a red flag. If it was not a red flag to you before, it might be now. So perhaps individuals who are gaming the system in that way, doing things that maybe they shouldn't have as in quotations, probably need to pay attention to these updates. Let's talk about Google's AI breakthrough, Gemini 1.5. So the story doesn't end with the helpful content systems integration. Google's Gemini 1.5 is their AI technology. It's featuring a mixture of experts architecture. This is crucial. This part delves into how that technology, if you will, supports the updates and the implications of that for the future of search, meaning Gemini and Google continuing to push their AI product in the SERPs itself. Classic question. What do I do if my site is impacted by the Google updates? Our mantra here at BlackTruck is that of don't freak out, right? Hold steady, hold fast. Even Google advises this as the updates roll out over a month's time. And I fully understand how, as a site owner or a business owner, as a marketer, we let our anxiety start to kick in because Google generates a massive amount of traffic for the majority of brands out there, right? It's an answer engine. It is the place where a lot of people start their search and research process. So you're kind of relying on it, whether it's free or paid, to deliver results for you. So no doubt you're going to be a little bit nervous about this, especially if maybe you've fallen, into the path of utilizing AI tools and generating content at scale and things that I talked about before. But first, what you have to do is determine if your site is even impacted by this before you can construct a plan on how you're going to combat the changes. Recovery can always feel super daunting, but it is achievable. The shift here is really towards creating genuinely useful content, moving beyond SEO to establish your brand as a being of, quality and relevance, which should not come to a shock, I suppose, to anyone really, unless, of course, you were doing things strictly off gaming your position. And I understand as an SEO of more than 20 years, my role is how do I improve the visibility of your brand online? And sometimes I think the things that the SEO community do, I'm not saying everyone does this, but sometimes that can be taken out of context. And unfortunately, I think people are leveraging tools for purposes to get short-term rank, short-term gain, and not the long-term strategy here. And I think Google's taking note of that finally, I think thankfully, and hopefully takes action, right? So how can you take action? As we wrap up here, there's some key action steps for you to take and really to be aware of. First and foremost, monitor your site. Monitor your site for data loss. And I'm not talking just relying on GA4 to track your organic search traffic here either. Keep in mind that is not GA4's job. GA4 is to tell you where is traffic coming from and what are people doing on your site. That's what it does. Now, leveraging and monitoring things like Google Search Console over the next month to 3 months is probably wise, keeping a keen eye on your impressions fluctuating within the SERPs. It's not a bad idea to utilize another third-party tools such as Moz, such as SEMrush, Ahrefs. There's a bunch of reputable tools out there that can do a lot of the same things. Keep in mind, the tool isn't going to dictate your strategy. The tool is there to gather data. You still need to develop a roadmap to move forward. So those tools, though, can help provide an independent lens on SERP activity and SERP features, a lot of those that could be changing over the next month or two. So again, this could be a monumental shift in search, but perhaps one of good measure, as Google, again, has come under fire for their poor quality of results lately. So as with any of these changes, there's a lot to shake out. we're going to try and do our job to stay on top of it as much as possible while continuing to focus on our client work and the brands that trust us to work with them, right? So that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to BTW with BTM. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com. And until next time, good luck.